sit, Jay?
No, it doesn't matter.
What's up, guys? How we doing? It's a quick turnaround. Hey, everyone.
All right, thanks everybody for coming. If you guys could just wait for the microphone, raise your hand. Chris will get you the microphone before you ask a question. We'll just start off quick with brief opening statements, just first from Ali and then from Jesse.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for all of you for being here today. It was a long season. It's unfortunate that we weren't able to get the victory and get the requisite number of goals that we needed to advance to MLS Cup. But we're back at the drawing board. We're back at the stadium, and we'll do everything we can to bring back a strong club for next year. But we appreciate the support all year. It started, it was challenging, in January. It's November now, but there's a lot of things that we should be proud of. We've accomplished a great deal this year, and we're going to work extremely hard and get back to the drawing board, and we'll be back at this next year. So these conferences are best for Q&A, so I'll try to keep it lean and mean. Jesse?
I'd like to thank everybody in this room. I think that getting to know everybody from the media side in this market and with this team has been a fun experience. You guys have treated me pretty well for the most part, so I appreciate that. And then the other thing I'd like to add is just to thank the fans. It wasn't easy last night to go over to the South Ward, and our team was hit really hard by the results. But certainly the fans and the supporters this year, how they latched on to our team and how they, I think, appreciated the new movement of what's happening here has been as big a motivator as any within this organization. So. Again, wish we could give the fans one more game at home to come to, but next year.
With that, we'll open up for questions. Chris, we'll start with Christian in the back corner.
Ali, any clarification on Jesse moving forward? Has the contract been picked up? And I guess just some of the housekeeping things with the staff.
So Jesse's under contract with the Red Bulls. He'll be back next year. We're looking forward to him being back next year. He had a great season, as did a lot of our staff and as did our players. So Jesse will be back next year. I'm not going to get into the details regarding his contract, but he'll be back next year. We're happy to have him, and he had a fantastic season.
We'll go up front row. Chris, if you can get to Frank.
Jesse, last night you said that you had every attacking option off the bench in the game at the end. Can you just give us an idea of where the team needs to improve, which areas this year, for next year?
Well, I think the starting point is we're going to, in every way, Ali and I, try to keep this group together. And I think that's going to be a challenge, but one that we're hopeful to be able to complete. In terms of now finding, for me right now, the emphasis isn't so much on what pieces we need to get as how we continue to take the process forward. Because some of what will determine where we need to improve will be how we get through containing the current roster we have and now keeping all these pieces in. So clearly we have a great foundation for the future. I think there's some really good young players within our mix. We'll have more academy players, I think, that we'll try to figure out a way to include for next year. And there's probably the opportunity for maybe one or two more pieces to add. But for right now, the important thing is we have certain things on our radar, but the emphasis is certainly to keep this group together.
We'll go next, second row to Eric.
Jesse, all season long, whether it was after practice or after games, win, lose, or draw, it was always the same tactics, and you would preach that nothing would change. Given the way that this last series turned out, do you think there needed to be a plan B, and moving forward, will there be other tactics involved?
Well, I wouldn't say there isn't a plan B, okay? But there is certainly a strong plan A. And, it was interesting even in this playoff to see that two teams basically came to play against us, and their main emphasis was to disturb what we do. And to see a team like, you give Columbus credit, but to see a team like that not commit to the things that they've done all year in their identity and come into the series and think that it was much more important to try to disturb what we do, I think it says a lot about who we are and what we are and where we're going with this. So, and clearly you could say that DC's main emphasis was to disrupt and disturb what we do. Now the key is for me is levels, right? How much further can we take? How much better can we be at what we do to put an imprint on the game in a bigger way and in a better way? And even when you look at the series, it gets shaken and rattled and even tactically changed when you go down 1-0 from the start. What's the series look like if we go up 1-0 from the start, and then how does it play itself out? So, you give credit to Columbus because they came in with a game plan to disrupt and disturb us. They were good at it in many ways, but I also felt like we had a lot of good moments in the series, and if we're a little bit sharper, if we're a little bit better at what we do, I think we would have come out on top.
We'll go next to Graham, second row.
Kind of a question for both you guys, which is basically some of the off-the-field events at the start of the year. They seem to shape the tone of the early part of the year, and whether partly by accident or by design, the intensity of the way the team played, the chip on the shoulder of the way the team played was sort of partly seemed to be set by some of those circumstances. Just looking ahead at this off-season now, where you've got like a longer period together. How is the tone going to be different, and how is that perhaps going to affect the approach to building the team?
What I would say is having a chip on our shoulders because our guys are hungry and we're driven. And when teams or individuals count us out, we have the type of group that wants to persevere, and we want to win, and we want to perform, and we want to compete. And that has a lot to do with the staff that we've brought within the organization, and also has a lot to do with the players that's part of the organization. The success that we've had this season with the on-field results has been tremendous in terms of what we've been able to achieve from a performance standpoint, and also from a result standpoint. But really, the success that we've had this year is, as an organization, there are certain descriptive terms that are used to describe the New York Red Bulls that have never been used before, and that's innovation, that's creativity, that's hard work, that's integrity. And I truly believe that those words are used to describe this organization in a completely different way than they've ever been used in the past, and we feel really good about that. And we've all worked hard to try to establish that over the last 10, 11 months, and that will continue. So we've made a lot of progress this year. We still have a lot of work to do, but we'll look forward to doing that in the off season and in preseason, and we'll get back at it for next year.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the chip on the shoulder one is a good question. It's an interesting moment of where we are right now. Clearly, this has been a successful year. Not as successful as we all had hoped in winning MLS Cup, but going into next year, the biggest challenge is going to be maintaining that hunger, maintaining that chip on the shoulder, maintaining the approach and the commitment at even, and then actually establishing it at even higher levels, so that we take all of the foundation and the good things that have been built this year and now make them even better next year. And there's potential for all that to happen, but it's hard work, right? It's a lot of the assumption after a year, guys will have time off, they'll go away, we'll come back together next year, and the assumption will be that a lot of the things that we achieved this year were a lot easier to get to than they were. So for us to now understand that from the start next year that we're going to have a target on our back, that people are going to know we're a good team, they're going to know how we play, they're going to know our players, the whole bit, means that we've got to be bigger and better at what we do, and we've got to be hungry to strive for even more.
We'll go next up front to Brian. Oh, we got the microphone right behind you.
Ali, just piggybacking on an earlier question, specifically, not necessarily what pieces would you look to add in the offseason, but what sort of attributes would you look to improve on? Not saying a specific player or a specific position, but in terms of, say, speed, defensive depth, finishing, what sort of things would you like to add?
So to piggyback off of what Jesse said in terms of really trying to, we've talked at length. We want to bring, the core players back next year. There's always a challenge, and it's always tricky in the off season. But we firmly believe that there's a correlation between consistency and success. So that's important to us. It's a pillar. In terms of our identity and the types of player characteristics that fit who we are. We're a very high-pressing team, so it's important that we have a lot of players on our team that can cover a lot of ground at all moments of a game and throughout the entire season. So we're looking for those types of players that fit who we are, that check the box in terms of their personalities and how they are as human beings, not just how they are as soccer players. And so we'll look for those guys. We feel good about the team. We've got some depth in a lot of different areas. So aside from the position specifics of where we're going to add players, I think we feel good about the team right now. And there are a couple targets that we'll have, and we'll make a couple signings as early as the first part of January. But all in all, we feel good about the team.
We'll go back right to Peter.
Yeah, thank you. For both of you, the identity of your team, as you discussed, it seems to have been all season sort of almost a small market identity with no big DPs, big names, especially in contrast to NYC. There's been some little criticism, under the surface that maybe in this marketplace you could use sort of a big name or two. Obviously you don't want to get a player just for their name, but is there any temptation to go out and sign somebody with a higher profile?
So we've answered this question, since January, and we're going to go out and get players that we feel fit who we are as an organization, that they're team-oriented, they're driven, they're creative, they cover a lot of ground, they're good guys in the locker room, those types of things. And those are the characteristics that we look at when we look to add players and when we look to add staff to our organization. And so in terms of whether or not the guy has a quote-unquote big name, that's not as important as to making sure that this is a human being that can fit within our organization.
Is there any reason that can't be sort of a high-profile player?
No, I mean, what I would say is, but the first and foremost, they need to be a good human being that fit who we are as an organization, that fit our culture, that fit our locker room. Next, we look at the different player characteristics. And if it happens to be what a lot of folks are describing as a big name, then we'll look at that. If not, we'll look at that as well. So, yeah.
Go front left to Dan.
First for Ali and then Jesse. Ali, during the season, obviously the USL team has done some great things, producing some very solid players. How surprised were you to see how solid and ready Anatola Bong was, or Sean Davis, and he had Manolo Sanchez a couple of times for the senior side? How happy and surprised were you that these players were quickly to adapt and be MLS ready for the season? And then for Jesse, after you answer.
So it certainly is it's been kind of one of the shining stars of the year in terms of USL and that player development platform. That's been unbelievable for us. It really has helped guys like Tyler Adams and Sean Davis and Abong, like you mentioned. It's helped even the young player in Derek Etienne and the season that he had at UVA and developing through our pyramid. So it's been fantastic for those guys to get meaningful training opportunities as well as meaningful minutes against real professionals in games that count. And it's expedited their development. So if you looked at the first half of the season and where guys were playing from a USL perspective, and Sean Davis and Abong and those guys, it's helped their development as soccer players and contributing to our team at the MLS level. And we'll get better at that platform. We'll get more sophisticated. That team will get stronger. We'll look to add more local players to that team. So it's very exciting. I think the future is bright, particularly because as an organization we're able to make that investment, which is fantastic, by the way. So it's exciting.
Because Jesse, for that question as well, you get the CONCACAF Champions League next year, an extra 4 games, of course, depending on how deep you go into the Open Cup again in 2016.
Yeah.
how much forward are you looking to see some of these players growing like you had this year? And then, of course, the depth issue will always be popping up whenever you get to these types of matches.
Yeah. Well, I would go. Listen, I'm the head coach of the first team, and I'm judged often by the results of that team. But one of the things that not everybody sees in a lot of the work that gets done behind the scenes, and one of the things that I love the most about this job is the fact that we have a real club here. And it doesn't just extend to the USL Pro team. It extends to the PDL team, and it extends to the academy. And, Ali and I have spent countless hours investing in the relationships of the coaches and the players and the lineage of how all this fits together to help create a movement and a concept that will help players grow and develop and eventually contribute at the first team level. We've had down the stretch in the playoffs, we've had at training, some of you have been out there, some days we have almost 35 players out at training, right? And we've had Mason Deeds and Noah Powder and Tyler Adams and all these young players around our team that is at a supposedly the most important time of year where many clubs would say we're going to protect the first team the most. But this is all part of our process, is we're trying to build something that is about an investment in everything that we do in this club to have it how it's going to eventually fit to the first team. And that's not just for, that's not just for last night. It wasn't just for Sunday. It's for years to come. That includes our coaching network and certainly then, to see guys like Abong, even last night, go on the field and be ready to go. It's been hard this year because we haven't been able to give Sean Davis enough opportunity. We're certainly going to be excited to get Tyler Adams going more and get him into MLS games next year. So, there's a lot of excitement, I think, around the club, not just the first team, around the entire club as to the movement of where this is going.
We're going to take three more, first with Frank, then Dave, and then we'll wrap it up with Graham.
This could be for either one of you two. You made a significant investment in Gonzalo Varone halfway through the season. Can you talk about, he didn't get much major minutes this year. I don't know if he made a significant contribution. Can you talk about where he stands? Were you happy with him going forward?
Yeah, so I'll start. We're very happy with Gonzalo. He's been here for 3.5 months, and the one thing that happens, we brought him into a very strong team, and so we said when we first signed him is that we felt that we are operating out of a position of strength. Gonzalo fits the type of he matches a lot of the characteristics in terms of what we're looking from a style of play perspective. He's just getting his feet in terms of where we are, transitioning into the market, moving from South America to the New York metropolitan area. And as he gets acclimated a little bit more, he gets to know his teammates a little bit better. He gets a preseason under his belt. We feel that those types of things will translate on the field. Gonzalo's been a healthy and positive contribution to the locker room. He'll continue that. He'll only get stronger. He'll only get better as he learns our system, as he learns our teammates. So we're looking forward to Gonzalo contributing in even a more meaningful way next year. So he's been here for 3.5 months. It's been tough, as it's difficult for any new player transitioning into the market from a different continent.
Yeah, I think acclimating is one aspect, and then the other part is that he has come into a good team and he's handled himself really well. There are big expectations anytime you sign a DP, and everyone wants to see those players make a big splash. Well, our team was in a really strong state, and a lot of the investment in Gonzalo is for now, but is also for the future. And so, I know it's not always been easy on him to not get the opportunities that he would like to have. I've talked with him about, what the expectations are, how to continue to contribute every day, how to continue to adapt. And I think he's done all that well. And, next year we'll see more from him. He'll be more of a major contributor.
Left with Dave. Good morning, guys.
Hey, Dave.
Question for each one of you. Ali, there was a lot of confusion yesterday over the contract situation with Dax McCarty. Could you clarify that and what the club's plans are with Dax moving forward?
What was the confusion?
The confusion was that whether it was quoted or not quoted, whether or not his option had been picked up by the club. If it hasn't been picked up, what are the plans for negotiations in the future with Dax?
So we'll communicate all of our player decisions later today. Those will be made public. We'll communicate that to the players as well as to the league office today, and we'll meet with every player on the team, between today and tomorrow. My sense is those things will be made public either late this afternoon or at some point later on the afternoon tomorrow. Just we've got to communicate with the league office. With Dax, we're going to pick up his option. He's known that. We know that. He's a guy that was important for our team, and again, we talk about bringing back the core. He's a guy that we want to bring back.
And for Jesse, just again, one more look in retrospect to yesterday and talking about the tactics and the approach. Substitutions were a big deal, and understandably throughout the season, the tactics have been the same, and the substitutions have kind of followed suit, 60th minute, Grella for Verone type deal, or the other way around, excuse me. Do you think that the substitutions now in hindsight could have came at halftime, or do you feel like the club needed more of a spark going into the second half?
No, I felt, we made aggressive substitutions. I think I said after the game that we put about every attacking option we had on the field. Well, the balance with that is if you make those decisions too early, you also make yourself more susceptible to give up a goal. So there's a huge balance in there in terms of how to use the subs and when to use them and how to balance it out so that you're aggressively going after the game, but you're not giving it away. As a coach, you always look back at certain things and you wonder what could have gone, what you could have done more, what you didn't do right. In this one, you almost feel like we're 2 inches away from everything working out the way that we were hoping it would have. I'm reflective on this year, and I'm proud of this year, and there's so much that's been achieved. But honestly, I can tell you that I pretty much woke up this morning and I'm already thinking about 2016. So this business never stops. That's a good thing. I don't like to rest.
Can you touch on a little bit, you didn't really speak about it yesterday, but being that you were about 2 inches away from taking this into overtime, what did that feel like for you, seeing that ball kind of skip the wrong way?
For me, I thought it was in. It looked, from my angle, it would look like it was just trickling into the net, and to see it hit the post and then bounce back, and then Kamara knock it out, and because there's numbers in there, and I thought even when it hit the post that maybe we could have followed it up, and at that moment in the game, I think I said during the week that if it was tied 0-0 at the 85th minute, could score a goal in the 86th minute and everything be there for us. Well, we scored in the 93rd minute and everything was still there for us. So, the emotion was painful, brutal. In some ways, that's why you do this for a living, is for those moments, even if they don't go your way. But certainly the pride I have for our group and the way that they committed, the way that they poured their hearts and emptied their tanks, that was one of the messages. The first day that we met, I said, we're going to empty our tanks every day. Well, there's no question that every player that stepped on the field last night emptied their tank at the highest level. And that's going to help us continue to grow, and that's going to help us to get to where we want to go, which is ultimately winning MLS Cup.
And I'll take it one further in that, it was heartbreaking for everyone within this building. I think you just kind of felt that. We all understand that this is a business, but we take it personal. And so, to not have that ball go in the net was, you almost shed a tear. But, at the end of the day, we've got to wake up and get back after it and have a strong off season and look at ways where we can improve and get stronger and get more sophisticated, and there's also a lot of excitement in that, and there's a lot of opportunity there as well, because we've made a lot of progress this year, but we've gotten to a point where how can we do things better? How can we analyze things a little bit more in a little bit more sophisticated way? So we're all looking forward to next year. We don't hang our heads low. Our chins are up, and we're looking forward to next season.
We'll close things up with Graham.
Okay, guys, so seeing as it's the final question, then I just wanted to congratulate you both on building a very entertaining team, and it's made my job quite fun this year, watching you. But because I'm part of the cynical press, I have to ask another question, which is, Is it fair to, I wanted to just maybe characterize where maybe areas of improvement might be. Is it fair to say that if there were, of the weaknesses of the team this year, potentially, obviously, the vulnerability to speed on the counter, sometimes struggling to break down bunkered teams, and also just perhaps on a more wide-angle level, it seemed that picking up that intensity after breaks was sometimes an issue. Is that a fair characterization?
I mean, those are all things that I think did arise in certain ways, shapes, or form. I'll start with the after breaks one. One of the difficulties of MLS is how the schedule plays itself out, and any team's ability to understand how to handle travel, elevation, heat, scheduling, lots of games at certain moments, none at others, is important to the success. Overall, I would say that I would give us passing marks on almost all those categories. Coming off of 2-week breaks, we had 2 weeks where we weren't good. So that was in Chicago in August and here at Columbus in Columbus. How much of that has to do with the break, I'm not so sure, but we have addressed that. Any team has, based on their style and their players and then their approach, has strengths and weaknesses. I'm going to choose to think a lot more about our strengths, okay, which is that we led the league in scoring. We were a very aggressive, entertaining team. We led the league in possession. We had more attacking third entries. Almost every attacking category, we were the top team in the league, if not first, then second. There are small little details and flaws that maybe our system, I wouldn't call them flaws, details that we need to include to continue to improve. So when I talk about levels, I want us to get better at all those categories that we were good at, and I want us to now get better at all the areas that we need to improve on. So, certainly the way we play, counterattacks will always be an issue. I mean, we have a lot of speed on our back line. We had a lot of contributors on our back line, and we still had a very good goals against average. So, again, right now, my mind frame is trying to keep this group together as much as possible, getting everybody back, getting the mentality right come January, and ramping it all up and now being even that much better than we were this year. Is that good, Graham?
And one of the things I would say is we're less than 24 hours since our season's been over. So, I mean, one of the opportunities that you have in the off season is you get a chance to look at every game that we played. You get a chance to look at video. You get a chance to look at training sessions. You get a chance to really look at every single data point that occurred over the course of a very long season and ask questions, find solutions, find answers, and we'll be better next year. We'll be stronger. Because we can look at all those different data points, address them with our players as a staff, so that we can really be prepared and ready to go for next year.
That'll wrap up today's portion with Ali and Jesse. Thanks, guys. The locker room is now open.